Welcome to Beyond the Fundamentals. The topic that we're covering today is overcoming pornography addiction. This has been highly requested of late, and so I figured we'd put this together. It's a touchy subject, so I have pre-recorded everything, and everything that you're going to see in the presentation that follows is generated using a help. I've taken everything that we've learned, not only in the lifetime that I have, but especially over the last 5 years or so. And we're incorporating everything from the 4 kinds of knowing to salience landscaping, relevance realization. We're incorporating all of that into this issue. There are also some images that I selected. Now most of the images were AI generated. Some of them are simply illustrative. Some of them are kind of meant to be funny. And I hope you take them, if you see the funny ones, I hope that you take them in that, in the spirit with which they were intended, okay? This is also a very touchy subject for a variety of reasons, which I'm sure you can guess. And because of that, that's why I pre-recorded this, to try to cover all the bases and to try to be thorough. I also want to tell you the goals and the intent behind this, and some of the goals with this presentation before we get to the pre-recorded presentation. And first of all, understand that not everyone has a miraculous immediate deliverance overcoming their besetting issue. I know that a lot of Christians especially, you hear these stories where people had an immediate overnight deliverance from cigarettes or cussing or alcohol or pornography, okay? And I think that's wonderful, and I'm not negating those when they really happen, but it's also not everyone's story, okay? Most people's story is more of a long-term nuanced approach to overcoming things that are legitimately addictions, okay? Also, approaching this issue in a way that is not laden with moralism and guilt is one of the things that I want to accomplish here, but from an aspect of overall health. Guilt and moralism create tormented people who never consistently function well. And sometimes a spouse will actually use a righteous issue like this to keep their partner in moralistic guilt all the time for various reasons, which brings me to my next point, and my goal is do not weaponize this info in this presentation or use it against your loved one. In the book, I Hate You, Don't Leave Me, it demonstrates a woman with borderline personality disorder. The husband knows he has a problem with alcohol, so he doesn't drink, but the wife withholds sex from him until he drinks. And then once he drinks, then she gets him upset. He gets violent like he knew he would, gives her a black eye. And then she wears the black eye around town as this badge of honor of this. When people do that, when they use other people's failings as their own badge of honor, they like to be perceived as having been victimized by somebody else, because the underlying cause for this is that victimhood substitutes for virtue, okay? And when people don't have their own virtue, they suck it out of everybody else. And so there's always that spouse who they're going to use the besetting sin of their partner as to paint themselves to the outside world as having to deal with it or being victimized by it. And the reason they do that is because they don't have any virtue of their own to demonstrate, so they have to suck it out of somebody else. And they actually, that kind of person actually enjoys perpetuating their partner's problem so that they can continue to wear it as a badge of victimhood. Now, they won't come out and say that because these things are subconscious. They don't realize that that's why they're doing it. But that's what's going on. And we need to make sure that we avoid that kind of thing. Don't want that to happen with the material that I'm going to present today. Also, there is a danger that this sort of information can actually make a certain the next one of my next goals, subject change, is that this kind of information that we're going to present today could actually make the situation worse, simply because making it prominent on the salience landscape, making it a thing that people notice when maybe it wasn't before. Okay, so going with Carl Jung says, whatever you resist persists, and that could be the case here. So we want to focus on virtues. What we really want to do overall, one of the reasons I haven't done this topic is because I prefer the approach for people to focus on where you do want to go rather than focusing on where you don't want to go. So, it's kind of, ironically coming out of this mouth of this guy who does all these anti-Calvinism videos, I would rather people focus on where they do want to go rather than where they don't want to go. But as you have probably noticed, we haven't been doing anti-Calvinist videos lately either. So we're trying to grow and transform here as well. Now, last thing I want you to understand before we get to the presentation is that this presentation is not definitive. It doesn't wrap it up and put a neat little bow on it. This is the last piece of information you're ever going to need, but it does have a lot of core information that you're probably not going to get anywhere else. The combination of info, the way I've tied it together here, you're probably not going to get that anywhere else. But this serves as a basis of a starting point for a helpful conversation about this issue. So, overcoming this issue, and not just for an individual, but it's really helpful for communities and societies to not have this issue as well. And overcoming this issue is going to have to be some dialogues about it. And I think that this video that you're about to see is the perfect amount of information to start the dialogue on how this issue can be addressed, not just in individual lives, but culturally as well, so we can enculturate a kind of society where this type of thing isn't a problem. Okay? Without further ado, as James White would say, let's get to the presentation. Overcoming pornography addiction for good. Previously on this channel, we live streamed a video titled How the Church Causes Societal Sexual Immorality. This video will build on many of the concepts already covered in that video. Please watch both videos to have a more complete picture of the data we are presenting on this topic. Overcoming pornography addiction, a multidimensional approach. Here is the agenda. The advisory and disclaimer, causes, dishonesty and secrecy, scarcity, foregrounding, and salience landscaping, setting goals, measurable, obtainable, sustainable, reciprocal opening and reciprocal narrowing. Porn addiction leads to reciprocal narrowing in various aspects of life. Porn and the limbic system. Why a moralistic religious approach may lack effectiveness. Goodhart's Law. Goodhart's Law and sexuality. A holistic approach. Black and white, all or nothing thinking. Avoiding pornography addiction. The supportive spouse or partner. Advisory and disclaimer. The content discussed here may diverge from conventional religious views on pornography addiction recovery. While we strive to provide comprehensive and diverse perspectives, we encourage viewers to approach this information with an open and considerate mindset. It's important to emphasize that overcoming addiction is a process that requires time, patience, and often professional guidance. There are no instant solutions to these complex issues. Please be aware that this content may not be suitable for young viewers. Parental discretion is advised, as the topics discussed are intended for a more mature audience and involve sensitive subject matter. All the data from this presentation is available for purchase as a PowerPoint slide deck on Etsy. The link is in the description below this video. Once purchased, these slides can be used at church gatherings, for men's or women's group studies, for your own online content, or for your own personal use. If you appreciate content like this being available to you, please consider financially supporting this channel using one of the methods shown on the screen. The details are also in the description below. Causes. Pornography addiction, like other forms of addiction, is a complex phenomenon with no single cause. Instead, it results from a combination of biological, psychological, and social factors. Understanding these factors can provide a more comprehensive view of what leads to pornography addiction. Biological factors. Neurochemical response. The release of dopamine in the brain during the viewing of pornography creates a feeling of pleasure and reward, encouraging repeated engagement with the material. Brain plasticity. Regular consumption of pornography can lead to changes in the neural pathways associated with reward and pleasure, reinforcing the addictive behavior. Genetic predisposition. There may be genetic factors that make certain individuals more susceptible to addictive behaviors, including pornography addiction. Number 2, psychological factors. Coping mechanisms. Individuals may turn to pornography as a way to escape from stress, anxiety, depression, or other mental health issues, past trauma or abuse. Experiences of trauma, especially sexual trauma, can sometimes play a role in the development of addictive behaviors. Personality traits. Certain personality traits, such as impulsivity or a high need for novel experiences, can increase the risk of developing an addiction. Number 3, social and environmental factors. Accessibility and anonymity. The easy availability of pornography on the internet and the anonymity of accessing it can facilitate the development of an addiction. Cultural and social influences. Cultural and social attitudes towards sex and pornography, as well as exposure to sexual content from a young age, can influence the development of pornography addiction. Relationship issues. Problems in personal relationships, including a lack of intimacy or sexual satisfaction, may lead some individuals to seek fulfillment through pornography. Number 4, emotional factors. Emotional dysregulation. Difficulty in managing emotions can lead to using pornography as a form of self-medication or emotional regulation. Lack of alternative pleasures or rewards. For some, the lack of other sources of pleasure or reward in their life can make the allure of pornography stronger. Number 5, behavioral factors. Habituation. Over time, the habit of using pornography can become ingrained, making it a default response to various triggers. Escalation. There can be an escalation in the use of pornography where more extreme or varied forms are sought to achieve the same level of satisfaction. Pornography addiction is typically the result of a multifaceted interplay of various biological, psychological, social, emotional, and behavioral factors. Understanding these factors is key in addressing and treating the addiction effectively. Dishonesty and secrecy. A person might hide their pornography consumption from their spouse due to a variety of reasons, often rooted in psychological, emotional, and social factors. Shame and guilt. Pornography is often viewed as taboo or morally wrong in many societies and relationships. A spouse may feel ashamed or guilty about their consumption, feeling it reflects negatively on their character or self-control. Fear of judgment or rejection. There may be a fear that the spouse will judge them harshly, feel betrayed, or reject them if they find out. This fear can be especially potent if the spouse has expressed negative views on pornography. Concerns about relationship dynamics. The husband might worry that their spouse will interpret the pornography use as a sign of dissatisfaction with their sexual relationship, fearing it could lead to feelings of inadequacy, jealousy, or conflict. Privacy and autonomy. Some individuals view their pornography consumption as a private aspect of their sexuality or personal autonomy. They might feel that this is part of their life that doesn't need to be shared. Avoiding conflict. If the topic has been a source of conflict in the past, one's partner might hide their consumption to avoid further arguments or discomfort in the relationship. Denial or minimization. A romantic partner might be in denial about the extent of their pornography use or its impact on themselves and their relationship. They might also believe that it's not significant enough to warrant discussion. Lack of open communication channels. In some relationships, there might not be open lines of communication regarding sensitive topics like sexuality. One partner may feel that they cannot openly discuss their habits or desires with the other. Fear of damaging spouse's self-esteem. Concerns that this revelation could hurt their spouse's self-esteem or self-image might lead to concealment. They might worry their spouse could feel unattractive or insufficient. Addiction or compulsion. If the pornography use has become compulsive or addictive, hiding it can be part of the addictive behavior cycle, driven by a need to continue the behavior despite knowing its potential negative impact. Cultural or religious beliefs. Cultural or religious beliefs that strongly condemn pornography can create a significant barrier to disclosure, especially if both partners are part of a community or faith that views pornography negatively. Understanding these reasons can be crucial in addressing the underlying issues. It's important for both partners to work towards a relationship where open, non-judgmental communication about difficult topics, including pornography use, can take place. Scarcity, foregrounding, and salience landscaping. Scarcity, foregrounding, and salience landscaping are psychological and cognitive principles that can contribute to the development of a pornography addiction. Understanding how these factors interplay can shed light on why some individuals may become addicted to pornography. Scarcity. Perceived rarity. If an individual perceives sexual content or experiences as scarce or forbidden in their real life, pornography can become a sought-after commodity. The forbidden fruit aspect can make it more appealing. Escalation of value. Scarcity can escalate the perceived value of pornography, making it more desirable and leading to more compulsive consumption. Foregrounding. Heightened focus. Foregrounding is about bringing certain elements to the forefront of attention in the context of pornography. The hyper-focus on sexual content and gratification can make other aspects of sexuality and relationships seem less significant. Distorted perspective. This skewed focus can lead to unrealistic expectations about sex and relationship, potentially making real-life interactions seem less satisfying. Salience landscaping. Altered perception of importance. Salience landscaping involves shaping what an individual perceives as important or noteworthy. Regular consumption of pornography can alter what aspects of sexuality and human interaction are seen as most salient. Reinforcement of specific stimuli. The constant reinforcement of pornographic stimuli can make them more psychologically salient, overshadowing other aspects of a healthy sexual relationship. These principles can set the stage for pornography addiction by altering perceptions, desires, and expectations around sexuality. Scarcity can create a heightened desire for the forbidden content. Foregrounding can distort the individual's focus and expectations about sex, and salience landscaping can shift what the individual perceives as important or desirable in sexual encounters. This combination can create a compelling psychological environment conducive to developing an addiction. Setting goals that are measurable, obtainable, sustainable. Setting measurable, obtainable, and sustainable goals is crucial for someone struggling with pornography addiction for several reasons. It provides a clear path for recovery. Measurable goals offer a concrete path forward. They help define what recovery looks like in practical terms, breaking down the often overwhelming task of overcoming addiction into manageable steps. Facilitates tracking progress. Measurable goals allow both the individual and their support system to track progress. This can be highly motivating and provide a sense of accomplishment, which is essential for maintaining morale and commitment to recovery. It ensures realistic expectations. By setting obtainable and realistic goals, the individual is less likely to become discouraged by setbacks. Overly ambitious goals can lead to feelings of failure, while achieving goals sets the stage for incremental, sustainable progress. It promotes sustainable change. Sustainability in goal setting ensures that the changes made are not just temporary fixes, but are integrated into long-term lifestyle changes. This is key in preventing relapse and in promoting overall well-being beyond just overcoming the addiction. It provides a customized approach to recovery. Every individual's journey with addiction is unique. Personalized goals take into account the individual's specific circumstances, challenges, and strengths, leading to a more effective recovery process. Measurable, obtainable, and sustainable goals are foundational in the journey to overcoming pornography addiction. They provide structure, motivation, and a realistic framework for achieving lasting change. Reciprocal opening and reciprocal narrowing. Reciprocal opening. This refers to a process where an individual and their environment positively influence each other, leading to an expansion of possibilities and potentials for the individual. In relationships, this means both partners grow and evolve together, fostering a healthy, dynamic interaction. In the context of addiction, reciprocal opening can refer to how a supportive environment and positive personal changes can reinforce each other, aiding in recovery and personal development. Reciprocal narrowing. This is the opposite process where the interaction between the individual and their environment lead to a reduction in possibilities and potentials. In relationships, this can manifest as a toxic or dysfunctional dynamic where both partners negatively influence each other, leading to a downward spiral. In addiction, reciprocal narrowing describes how an individual's behavior, like substance abuse, and their environment, such as associating with other substance users, can reinforce each other, leading to a deepening of the addiction and a shrinking of the individual's world. These concepts are important in understanding how people interact with their surroundings and how these interactions can either lead to growth and expansion or to decline and constriction. Porn addiction leads to reciprocal narrowing in various aspects of life. Pornography addiction can lead to reciprocal narrowing in various aspects of an individual's life, impacting relationships, parenting, work, social interactions, and perceptions of others, especially the opposite gender. Intimate relationships. Addiction to pornography can create a gap in how intimate and sexual relationships are perceived and experienced. It may lead to unrealistic expectations, decreased satisfaction with physical intimacy, and potential secrecy or guilt straining the relationship. Over time, this can narrow the depth and quality of the relationship as the person becomes more isolated in their addiction. Parenting. A parent consumed by pornography addiction may become less emotionally available and more withdrawn, impacting their ability to connect with and attend to their children's needs. This can lead to a narrowed family dynamic where meaningful interactions and bonding are reduced. Job performance. The compulsive nature of addiction can lead to preoccupation with pornography even during work hours. This distraction can decrease productivity and focus, potentially jeopardizing the individual's job performance and career prospects. Friendship and social life. As with any addiction, pornography addiction can lead to social withdrawal. An individual might spend less time with friends or avoid social gatherings to engage in their addiction, leading to a narrowing of their social circle and support system. Society at large. Engaging in pornography, particularly if it becomes a compulsive behavior, can skew an individual's perception of societal norms, sexual behaviors, and relationships. This altered perception can lead to difficulties in engaging with society in a healthy and constructive manner. View of the opposite gender. Pornography often portrays unrealistic and objectified images of people, particularly women. This can profoundly affect how someone addicted to pornography views and interacts with the opposite gender, fostering unrealistic expectations and potentially disrespectful or objectifying attitudes, which can impede healthy, equitable relationships. Overall, the narrowing effect of pornography addiction is characterized by a decrease in the breadth and depth of an individual's social, emotional, and professional life, driven by the increasing focus and dependency on the addictive behavior. This can lead to a cycle where the person becomes more isolated and dependent on pornography, further exacerbating the issue. Porn and the limbic system. The limbic system and dopamine-related reward centers in the brain play crucial roles in the development and perpetuation of pornography addiction, akin to their roles in other addictive behaviors. Limbic system. This brain area is integral to emotional regulation and the processing of pleasure and rewards. It becomes highly active in response to stimuli that are perceived as rewarding, such as sexual imagery and pornography. This response can create strong emotional and physiological reactions, reinforcing the behavior. Dopamine and reward centers. Dopamine, a key neurotransmitter in the brain's reward system, is released in response to pleasurable and rewarding activities. In the context of pornography addiction, viewing pornographic material triggers the release of dopamine, creating a sense of pleasure and reward. This reward signal reinforces the behavior, making the individual more likely to repeat it in search of similar rewarding experiences. Over time, the repeated engagement with pornography can lead to changes in the brain's reward system. These changes can include tolerance. Similar to other forms of addiction, individuals may require intense or varied pornographic content to achieve the same level of satisfaction or pleasure. These changes can include altered reward sensitivity. The regular consumption of pornography can dull the brain's responses to other more natural rewards, making everyday activities seem less enjoyable in comparison. These changes can include compulsion and dependence. The strong connection between the behavior, viewing pornography, and the release of dopamine can create a compulsive urge to engage in the behavior even if it has negative consequences. Hypernormal stimuli. Hypernormal stimuli are exaggerated versions of natural cues that elicit stronger biological responses than the original, often leading to heightened but potentially maladaptive behaviors. Consistent exposure of the limbic system, the brain's emotional and reward center, to hypernormal stimuli, particularly in the form of pornography, can have detrimental effects on an individual's well-being. Hypernormal stimuli, such as those found in pornography, are significantly more intense and arousing than natural stimuli. They can cause the limbic system to release high levels of dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. Over time, this excessive dopamine release can lead to a rewiring of the brain's reward system. This process, known as neuroplasticity, results in increased tolerance, meaning that more intense or frequent exposure to such stimuli is needed to achieve the same level of satisfaction or arousal. This tolerance can diminish the enjoyment derived from other less intense experiences and activities, potentially leading to a decreased interest in real-life sexual encounters and relationships. Moreover, this kind of exposure can distort an individual's expectations and perceptions of sexuality, intimacy, and relationships. It can create unrealistic standards and potentially harmful beliefs about sex, which may be difficult to reconcile with the realities of human intimacy. As a result, individuals may find themselves increasingly isolated and dissatisfied with their personal relationships and experiences. The consistent exposure of the limbic system to hypernormal stimuli like pornography can disrupt the natural reward mechanism in the brain, leading to tolerance and dependency, and alter perceptions and expectations in ways that are ultimately detrimental to an individual's emotional and relational well-being. Thus, the limbic system and dopamine pathways significantly contribute to the development of pornography addiction by creating and reinforcing the connection between the behavior and the pleasurable response it elicits. Why a moralistic religious approach may lack effectiveness. A moralistic religious approach that strictly adheres to a divine ethic might hinder the nuanced approach needed for successfully overcoming pornography addiction in several ways. Shame and guilt. Many religious frameworks view pornography as a significant moral failing, potentially leading to intense feelings of shame and guilt in individuals struggling with addiction. While guilt can be a motivator for change, excessive shame can be paralyzing and counterproductive, making it harder to seek help and address the issue openly. Lack of communication. In environments where discussing topics like sexuality or pornography is taboo due to religious beliefs, individuals may find it difficult to talk openly about their struggles. This lack of open communication can prevent them from accessing the support and resources they need. All or nothing thinking. A strict moralistic approach often aligns with black and white thinking, where any engagement with pornography is seen as a total moral failure. This perspective can hinder the recognition of gradual progress and can exacerbate feelings of failure during relapses, impeding long-term recovery. Overemphasis on spiritual solutions. While spiritual support can be a powerful component of recovery, focusing solely on prayer, confession, or other religious practices may overlook the need for a comprehensive approach. This approach might neglect psychological, social, and medical aspects essential to overcoming addiction. Underplaying psychological factors. A strictly moralistic view may attribute addiction solely to moral weakness or spiritual failings, overlooking the complex psychological factors at play, such as emotional distress, mental health issues, or past trauma. Fear of judgment. Fear of judgment from a religious community can be a significant barrier to seeking help. Individuals might fear ostracization or condemnation, leading them to hide their struggle rather than seeking the necessary support. Limited resources and support. Some religious communities may not have access to or may not provide resources that are informed by the latest understanding of addiction and mental health. This can limit the options available for those seeking help within their community. To overcome these challenges, it is important for religious communities and individuals to adopt a more balanced and compassionate approach. This approach should acknowledge the complexity of addiction, encourage open and non-judgmental communication, integrate spiritual support with psychological and social interventions, and promote a compassionate understanding of the recovery process. Goodhart's Law. General definition of Goodhart's Law. Goodhart's Law states, when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. Originally formulated in the context of economic policy, it suggests that once a specific metric is used as the primary indicator for success or target for policy, it loses its effectiveness as a measure because people start to game or optimize for that specific metric, often at the expense of broader objectives. The definition of Goodhart's Law with respect to pornography addiction. In the context of pornography addiction, Goodhart's Law can be interpreted as, when sexual gratification as depicted in pornography becomes the sole target or measure of sexual satisfaction, it is decontextualized from realistic circumstances and it serves to deteriorate a healthy sexual relationship. This implies that focusing narrowly on the type of sexual experience portrayed in pornography distorts the broader, more nuanced understanding of sexual intimacy and health. It emphasizes that when the complex, multidimensional nature of sexual relationships is reduced to the singular aspect of physical pleasure, as often depicted in pornography, it leads to a skewed and unhealthy perspective of sexuality, relationships, and intimacy. Goodhart's Law and Sexuality. Comparing the extraction of sexuality from the context of a normal relationship in pornography addiction to the violation of Goodhart's Law offers a fascinating perspective. Goodhart's Law states that when a measure becomes a target, it ceases to be a good measure. This principle, primarily applied in economic and policy contexts, can be metaphorically extended to understand the effects of pornography addiction. In the context of pornography addiction, measure to target shift, Goodhart's Law. In healthy relationships, sexuality is one component of a multifaceted connection that includes emotional intimacy, mutual respect, shared experiences, and affection. However, in the case of pornography addiction, the focus shifts predominantly to sexual gratification, analogous to making a measure, sexual satisfaction, the sole target. This shift leads to the devaluation of other aspects of the relationship. Decontextualization of sexuality. Pornography often portrays sexual activity devoid of emotional intimacy, commitment, or relational context. Regular consumption of such material can lead to a skewed perception of what constitutes a normal sexual relationship. This decontextualization can create unrealistic expectations and a distorted understanding of sexual intimacy. Impact on relationships, violation of Goodhart's Law. When the multidimensional nature of a healthy sexual relationship is reduced to the singular aspect of physical pleasure as often depicted in pornography, it's akin to violating Goodhart's Law. The holistic value of sexual intimacy in a relationship is lost when it's reduced to just a target or goal, similar to how a complex economic measure loses its meaning when targeted for policy purposes. Harmful consequences. The decontextualization and subsequent overemphasis on the physical aspect can lead to various issues in real-life relationships, such as unrealistic expectations. Continuous exposure to the unrealistic scenarios in pornography can lead to expectations that are not typically met in real relationships. Decreased relationship satisfaction. The focus on sexual gratification can overshadow other critical aspects of a relationship, leading to dissatisfaction and strained connections. Altered perception of partners. Viewing partners through the lens of pornography can lead to objectification and a lack of appreciation for the non-sexual aspects of the relationship. The decontextualization of sexuality in the context of pornography addiction can be likened to the violation of Goodhart's Law, where the reduction of a complex, multifaceted aspect of human relationships to a single, often misrepresented component leads to a distorted understanding and harmful consequences in real-life interpersonal dynamics. Holistic approach. To overcome pornography addiction, a holistic approach is necessary, integrating understanding from reciprocal narrowing, agent arena attunement, relationship dynamics, Goodhart's Law, and the neuroscience of addiction. Here's a detailed prescription. Acknowledge the addiction and its impacts. The first step is acknowledging the problem of understanding how pornography addiction leads to reciprocal narrowing in various life aspects, relationships, work, social life, and self-perception. Seek professional help. Consult a therapist or counselor specializing in addiction. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, can be particularly effective in addressing addictive behaviors and thought patterns. Therapy can also address underlying issues such as depression, anxiety, or past trauma. Reattune the agent arena relationship. Expand environmental influences. Modify your environment to reduce triggers and temptations. This can include installing website blockers, avoiding certain online platforms, and creating a healthier routine. Build support systems. Engage with support groups, online forums, or communities for people overcoming similar addictions. These can provide empathy, advice, and a sense of not being alone in the struggle. Reframe the role of sexuality, addressing Goodhart's Law. Work on understanding and appreciating the broader aspects of relationships beyond just the sexual component. This might involve relationship counseling or reading materials that emphasize emotional intimacy and connection. Understand and retrain the brain. Learn about the limbic system and dopamine. Educate yourself on how addiction affects your brain, particularly the limbic system and dopamine pathways. Mindfulness and meditation. Practices like mindfulness and meditation can help in managing cravings and developing greater self-awareness and control. Develop new habits and interests. Replace old habits. Find healthy activities that bring you joy and fulfillment. Engage in hobbies, sports, or arts to create new positive experiences. Physical exercise. Regular physical activity can improve mood, reduce stress, and create natural dopamine boosts. Build healthy relationships. Open communication. If you're in a relationship, open communication about your struggles can be crucial. Honesty can help in rebuilding trust and understanding. Develop non-sexual intimacy. Focus on strengthening emotional bonds through non-sexual activities like shared hobbies, date nights, or simply spending quality time together. Accountability and self-monitoring. Journaling. Keep a journal to track your progress, triggers, and feelings. This can help in identifying patterns and making conscious changes. Set goals and celebrate milestones. Setting achievable goals and celebrating small victories can keep you motivated. Long-term commitment and patience. Overcoming addiction is a long-term process that requires commitment and patience. Recognize that setbacks may happen and they are part of the journey. Focus on overall well-being. Pay attention to your overall well-being, including diet, sleep, and mental health. A well-balanced lifestyle supports recovery and reduces the likelihood of relapse. Combining these strategies can create a comprehensive approach to overcoming pornography addiction, focusing on both immediate actions and long-term lifestyle changes. It's crucial to remember that recovery is a personal journey and might require trying different strategies to find what works best for the individual. Black and white all-or-nothing thinking. Black and white all-or-nothing thinking can significantly hinder the process of overcoming pornography addiction. This cognitive distortion involves viewing situations in only two categories rather than on a spectrum, which can create several challenges. Unrealistic expectations. Overcoming addiction is rarely a straight path. It often involves progress and setbacks. All-or-nothing thinking might lead one to expect immediate, complete cessation of the behavior. When this doesn't happen, it can lead to feelings of failure and discouragement. Heightened sense of failure. Viewing any use of pornography as a total failure can exacerbate feelings of guilt and shame. This intense negative emotional response can create a vicious cycle where the individual uses pornography as a way to cope with these feelings, perpetuating the addiction. Resistance to seeking help. People with all or nothing thinking might believe that they must overcome their addiction entirely on their own to be successful. This belief can prevent them from seeking necessary help from professionals, support groups, or loved ones. Difficulty in recognizing the progress. Recovery from addiction often involves small incremental changes. All or nothing thinking can blind an individual to the progress they are making, as they might only focus on the ultimate goal of total abstinence. Ignoring underlying issues. This type of thinking can lead to an oversimplified understanding of addiction, ignoring the complex interplay of psychological, social, and biological factors. It might lead one to overlook the need to address underlying issues such as emotional distress, relationship problems, or mental health disorders. Demotivation and hopelessness. Continual disappointment from not achieving complete success can lead to demotivation and a sense of hopelessness. This mindset can make it more challenging to stay engaged in the recovery process. To overcome these challenges, it's important to adopt a more nuanced view of recovery, recognizing it as a gradual process with ups and downs. Embracing a growth mindset, seeking support, and celebrating small victories are crucial steps in successfully overcoming addiction. Avoiding pornography addiction. Avoiding pornography addiction involves a multifaceted approach that addresses biological, psychological, social, and environmental factors. Here are key strategies. Understand the risks and mechanisms. Educate yourself about how addiction works, particularly the role of the limbic system and dopamine in reinforcing addictive behaviors. Understanding the science behind addiction can help in recognizing early warning signs and in making informed choices. Developing healthy coping mechanisms. Learn to manage stress, anxiety, and other emotions in healthy ways. Instead of turning to pornography, consider activities like exercise, meditation, hobbies, or talking to a friend or therapist. Build strong relationships. Cultivate meaningful connections with friends, family, and, if applicable, a romantic partner. Strong relationships can provide emotional support and reduce the loneliness or emotional void that might lead to addiction. Create a healthy environment. Limit exposure to triggers. This might involve using website blockers or filters, avoiding certain online platforms, and being mindful of the media you consume. Develop a routine that includes engaging in rewarding activities that are not related to pornography. Practice mindfulness and self-awareness. Regularly engage in mindfulness practices to increase self-awareness. Being aware of your feelings and thoughts can help you recognize patterns that might lead to addictive behaviors. Seek professional help if needed. If you feel you're at risk of addiction or are struggling with issues like compulsive behavior, consider seeking help from a therapist or counselor. Educate yourself on healthy sexuality. Understanding healthy sexuality, including the emotional and relational aspects of sexual relationships, can help create a balanced view that counters the often unrealistic portrayal in pornography. Challenge cognitive distortions. Work on recognizing and challenging black and white or all or nothing thinking patterns. Embrace a more nuanced understanding of sexuality and relationships. Set boundaries and goals. Set clear, achievable goals regarding your internet usage and consumption of media. Having boundaries can help you regulate your behavior. Community and support groups. Engaging with community groups, especially those focused on healthy lifestyles or specific hobbies, can provide a sense of belonging and reduce the temptation to seek fulfillment through unhealthy means. By combining these strategies, an individual can create a robust framework to avoid the pathways that may lead to pornography addiction. It's about creating a balanced life filled with healthy relationships, activities, and coping strategies supported by an understanding of the risks and mechanisms of addiction. The supportive spouse or partner. Supporting a spouse who is struggling with pornography addiction is a delicate balance of understanding compassion and personal self-care. Here's how a spouse can be supportive, along with explanations on avoiding judgment, insecurity, and how understanding the limbic system plays a role. Empathy and understanding the limbic system. Understanding addiction. Recognizing that addiction is often a coping mechanism for deeper issues, and it's not just about willpower or moral failing. Understanding the role of the limbic system, the part of the brain responsible for pleasure, reward, and emotional response, can help. The release of dopamine during viewing pornography creates a powerful reward loop, making the behavior addictive beyond conscious control. Empathy. Approach your partner's struggle with empathy. Understand that overcoming addiction is challenging and relapses can be part of the process. Avoiding judgment. Non-judgmental stance. Understand that addiction is a health issue. Maintaining a non-judgmental stance is crucial. Judgment can create shame, which often exacerbates the addiction cycle. Educate yourself. Learn about pornography addiction. Understanding its complexities can foster a more compassionate and supportive stance. Managing personal insecurity. Self-care. Engaging in activities that boost your self-esteem and emotional well-being. This could include hobbies, exercise, or spending time with supportive friends and family. Seek support. Consider personal therapy or support groups for spouses of those with addiction. This can provide a space to process your feelings and learn from others in similar situations. Open communication. Express your feelings without placing blame. Use "I feel" statements rather than "you make me feel" statements to communicate your emotions without causing defensiveness. Encouraging honesty and open communication. Safe space for honesty. Create an environment where your partner feels safe to be honest without fear of immediate judgment or repercussions. This includes active listening and providing emotional support. Set boundaries. Clearly communicate your boundaries and the consequences of crossing them. Boundaries are not punitive, they are about protecting your emotional well-being. Supporting recovery. Encourage professional help. Encourage your partner to seek professional help, such as therapy or support groups. Offer to be involved in couples therapy if appropriate. Positive reinforcement. Acknowledge and praise your partner's efforts to overcome the addiction. Celebrate small victories and be a cheerleader for their progress. Maintain a healthy relationship. Spend quality time together. Engage in activities that strengthen your bond outside of this issue. This can help in rebuilding trust and intimacy. Patience and understanding. Understand that recovery is a journey. There will be ups and downs, and patience is key. Being supportive of a spouse with a pornography addiction involves a combination of empathy, understanding, clear communication, and self-care. It's important to approach the situation without judgment, to communicate openly and honestly, and to maintain personal emotional health. This approach not only supports the partner in their recovery journey, but also preserves the health and integrity of the relationship. I want to conclude this presentation with a few little points of reminder, is that everyone's situation is different. There's no cookie-cutter formula that can bring peace, balance, or meaning to every life. Remember the goals at the beginning of this presentation as you consider the information in this presentation. Do not misuse this information or weaponize it against somebody. Aim your life toward meaningful interactions. Merely avoiding the bad will not suffice. Aim your life towards something good. Give yourself the grace of having a nuanced approach that allows you to move incrementally toward your positive goals. Have informed conversations where you build on what you've learned here. Okay? That's what we want to do. Thanks for watching. May the Lord bless you, and good day.